What's going on, everyone? I'm Steve from Burke Family 54 Comics, and in today's video, you guys are going to hear an interview with legendary comic book writer Mark Waid, done by channel correspondent Mike V. If you don't know who Mark Waid is, he is the legendary writer for Kingdom Come, along with a bunch of other amazing works. So without further ado, let's get right into the interview.
Okay, what's up, guys? Here with Mark Waid, best known for writing series such as Kingdom Come, Tower of Babel, and a character-defining run on The Flash. But viewers may not know that he is responsible for the second Deadpool solo series, creating Bastion, Onslaught, first unofficial appearance of Sam Wilson as Captain America, relaunching Archie, assembling and creating the champions that we know them as today, writing for Immortal Hulk, Invisible Woman's first solo series, and the list goes on and on and on. After that, my first question has to be, with the ever-evolving landscape of superhero comics, how have you been able to sustain such an innovative and consistent approach to your craft?
I love the superheroes. That's really what it is. This is stuff that I love since I was 4 years old.
Yeah.
And I get to do a job that I would do for free, you know.
Yes.
And don't tell anybody, but I would do for free. And so that's just it. If superhero comics didn't exist,
yes,
I don't think I'd be a writer. I think I'd be working in an insurance office somewhere or something. I don't think that would, but it's that passion for those characters, and it's also being aware that you have to stay up to date with not only with trends, but with storytelling devices in general. Like, I read a lot of really cutting-edge comics on a regular basis because nothing excites me more than to see somebody try some new trick I've never seen before.
Okay.
Can I pull it? Can I use it? Can I do something with that?
Yeah.
And I think that's the answer. It's just, I love this stuff.
Okay. This one is a little out of left field, but Man Without a Country is one of my best friends. It's on his Mount Rushmore of comic book stories.
Cool.
So without giving too much of the story away, what inspired you to take such a well-established character on such a fundamentally different journey?
The very first thing I ask myself when I take on an ongoing series is, what is the worst possible thing that could happen to this character?
That's awesome.
And I get some of the best stories out of that. And obviously the worst thing that could ever happen to Steve is for him to be an exile from America.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. I mentioned earlier you contributing to the revelation that the Hulk was immortal. Were you ever in the running to write the Immortal Hulk series, or was Al Ewing always intended to be the writer?
Al was always the guy.
Okay.
And rightfully so. And he did 50 spectacular issues.
Oh my gosh. One of the most critically acclaimed runs on a comic book story ever.
Yep.
Was that a collaboration creation, or was that his baby and you kind of were writing Avengers at the time? So
it was collaborative between him and me and Jim Zub, who was writing that whole story, but it was mostly just, mostly Al
okay.
at the table, and us just kind of standing out of the way because he knew what he was doing.
Yes. Okay. Another one of your co-creations, Bastion, was featured as a major antagonist on the X-Men 97 animated series that just recently concluded its first season. Have you been able to watch the series yet?
I have not been able to watch the series yet.
Okay.
I've been on the road, but and to be honest, to tell you the truth, because I am of an age where that was just past my passion for the X-Men 97 stuff.
Yes.
I was just a little too old for that at the time.
Yeah.
Not to diss it in any way, and I understand it's a gateway to so many people who got into comics, and
yes.
so cool. But I don't have the same passion for it that I would like the new Bruce Timm Batman series is coming out. So yeah.
I will say it is not for children. So the X-Men 97 is...
I have seen the first episode.
Okay.
So I know the tone.
But what they do with Bastion is so prolific, in my opinion. I will recommend you got to check it out,
cool.
especially with him being your baby. You got to check it out. I think they did him justice 100%. Were you informed of his use in the show, or provided any acknowledgement that you're aware of?
I wasn't, not that I'm aware of. But,
okay.
Again, Marvel's pretty good about taking care of it.
Yes.
You keep saying this, and I'm trying to remember what my connection to Bastion is. Onslaught, I know. I remember.
Yeah.
But Bastion, are you sure?
Yeah. You wrote his first cameo appearance.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, in the X-Men series. Not the Uncanny X-Men, but the X-Men series. You wrote his first cameo appearance.
I'm a genius. Look at that. I didn't even know. I was bluffing with you.
I was going to say, you didn't write his first full appearance, but you wrote his first cameo appearance, and I can't think of the issue, but it was the X-Men series that you were writing on the 90s.
I only had 6 to choose from, so there's 6 issues. So easy for me to go back and look.
Okay.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I like to do my research before I do interviews.
Well, then I'm going to make some calls to Marvel tomorrow. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Okay. Is Onslaught coming in the animated series, in your opinion?
In my opinion, yes, but that's
Okay.
purely my opinion. I know no more than you.
Okay, and you'll understand if you watch the series towards the end, the connection that they have to make to.
Oh, I've been reading
avoid.
the coverage of it. So
Okay,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
All right. Having provided so much expansion for so many characters for the big two, whether it be body of work or workplace, which universe do you prefer and why?
The DC universe. I mean, that's my home. And it's not that I love the Marvel universe. The characters are great, but DC's where I started reading comics.
Okay.
And so, like everybody who reads comics, your first comics are the most formative ones.
Yes.
And so
agreed.
those are the characters I feel more attached to.
Okay, fair enough. And if I were to go browse a comic wall or dig through long boxes for an issue featuring your work, what book am I looking for that you believe features your finest work and why?
I would say Superman Birthright. That is my favorite thing I've ever done because it's my love letter to Superman.
Okay.
It forced me to think about Superman in ways that, as somebody who's loved him for 40 years, had never thought about him before.
Yeah.
And the work by Laniel Yu, the artwork by Laniel Yu is spectacular. And that's my point of pride with this is that so many people bring it up to me at conventions or store signings and say, I thought Superman was a terrible character, and then I read this, and now I get why you love Superman. Oh, great, then I did my job.
That's awesome. Well, Mr. Waid, it's an honor and pleasure.
Oh wait,
Thank
one
you
more
so
thing.
much.
One more thing. Can
Okay.
I add one more thing?
Sure.
You were very kind to list my list of accomplishments up front. You missed one.
Okay.
You remember when comics used to say continued on second page following at the bottom of those pages?
Yeah.
And which was stupid because, again, it's not like you're going to stop reading the story on page 6 and go, well, I guess I'm done with this comic book.
Right.
I'm the guy who got rid of those. I get credit for being the guy who said, this is really stupid.
Really?
It's 1989. Why are we still telling people that the story's not going to stop on page 4 of the comic book? So that one you can put on my tombstone.
That is amazing. That's awesome. Well, again, thank you so much.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
All right, so we just got done listening to that interview by Mike V with Mark Waid. Mike V, how was that experience for you interviewing Mark Waid, one of the most legendary comic book writers of all time? And why didn't you ask him about freaking Kingdom Come, man?
Well, so to address the Kingdom Come question, just between that and The Flash, he is so, well renowned for those works. And so I feel like he's kind of gotten beaten to death with those questions. And I'm really hoping this is the first of multiple interviews, getting to see him again at a future convention and stuff. I'm just going to say this. I got to live like a childhood dream. I had scheduled the interview. He's like, let's do 1:00. I'll be back after my panel. I'm like, okay, cool. So I come back. I'm waiting a little bit. And then he comes back and he's like, has a couple people waiting in line. He's like, here, come back here. Come back here. I'm like, I get to sit at Mark Waid's booth at a convention? This is amazing. And so I literally just got to chill back there while he was signing autographs, having conversations, got to take pictures for a couple of people who wanted pictures. And he was so gracious to me for helping him out. And I'm like, dude, I'm literally living a little mini comic book collector's dream of working at Mark Waid's booth. It was so cool. But talk about a stand-up guy, makes time for his fans. But one thing I did discover just having small talk with him is he and I bonded over the fact that for some reason this GalaxyCon only had 3 comic vendors. And for those of you that don't know, Mark Waid is a huge comic book reader and collector. And he was like, I was thumbing through long boxes and I was done in less than an hour. He's like, how are there only 3 of them? And I'm like, dude, same here. So it's really cool. And I told him, I said, no offense. After the interview, I said, no offense. But not only are you a comic book, legendary creator, but talking to you, I almost feel like we're at the same level in terms of being collectors. And he goes, no offense taken. I actually really appreciate that because at heart, that's who I am. And
That's
as you hear
awesome.
in the interview, one of the things he said was he's a vigorous reader and he tries to inspire himself from reading other people's most recent work and, the evolution of characters and things like that. So it was just really cool getting to have that one-on-one time with him. And what a basic principle that he brought up in the interview was when I write a story, I think, what's the worst thing that can happen to this character?
Yes.
And then I go in that direction and he goes, you'd be amazed at the stuff that I come up with when I immediately start from there. I'm like, what a fundamental thought
that I'm
Right.
surprised more writers haven't approached, and
Sure.
then just lets it evolve from there. So it was pretty impressive and just really awesome to get to talk to, a literally a hero of mine, being a huge DC fan, and you know, as he rightfully said, DC superiority is true,
Yeah,
so
so I actually wanted to ask you about that. So, like,
yeah.
obviously, it would have been cool to hear about Kingdom Come, but he actually just revisited that story in the World's Finest Batman Superman arc, where he went back and kind of touched up on like before all of that happens, which was really cool. But like you said, like I thought that was really interesting that he said that he actually prefers a DC Comics universe over Marvel,
Yes.
despite the fact that he kind of created Bastion, which you also talked about with him, which obviously Bastion was on the X-Men 97 series. So
That was
I
the
thought that was
funniest
really
thing to bring
interesting.
up to him. And I love how honest he was in the interview, because he was like, okay, I've kind of just been like saving face by going on with this, but what's up with this Bastion character? Like, what are you
Right.
talking about? And I'm like, yeah, just so you know, you wrote his cameo appearance. And he's like, I did? And I'm like, talk about having such an extensive amount of work where you have to be like, are you sure I did that? Like,
Right.
yeah. And he's like, yeah, I need to be calling Disney for some of those residuals. Oh, it was awesome. But yeah,
Yeah,
it just until you do, and that's one thing that I love. He really showed appreciation, outside the interview. He was like, I really do appreciate you, going over my accolades and stuff like that. And I said, before I interview somebody, I like to do my research, and it only enriches and helps me appreciate the experience more, knowing that I'm literally getting to talk to someone who has shaped my understanding of X amount of characters, or X amount of this universe. So it was just really fun to do that, and then getting to fanboy afterwards. Like I was telling my wife, I was like, you have no idea how difficult it is not to just fanboy out when you get to like hang with these creators who you've just held in such high regard your whole life, and then you actually get to see them, and you're just like, okay, you got to play it cool, man. Otherwise, they're never going to let you talk to them.
I thought it was I thought it was a great interview, and I had not read that Superman story that he said he had written, so I'm
Yeah,
excited to
Superman
read.
Birthright. Yes.
I need to read that for sure. That is something I may go on eBay at some point and get, because obviously I love anything Superman. He's from Kansas. We're both from Kansas. Big
Yes.
DC fans for both of us. So I definitely need to read that for sure. I'm
Well,
assuming you
and
have.
well, no, I have not read Superman
Okay,
Birthright.
so we both need to read that.
Yes, we talked about this, Steve. Comic book club. We need to make it
Which
happen. That could
we
be the
need to
for
make
that.
it
What a
happen.
bet! What a best first one to do. Being two Kansas boys reading Superman Birthright. That'd be pretty
Perfect.
good.
Perfect.
But what's really funny is I love that. So my LCS, shout out to Jeremiah Allen, my LCS manager down at Paper Games in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. He loves Mark Waid for Captain America: Man Without a Country, and I had never heard of that story in my entire life. And so I read up on it, and I was like, oh wow, this is a vast, misdirect from what this character really is. And that's why I love that that was a perfect caveat to him explaining how he approaches all of his
Yeah.
characters. And it's just it was a question that I threw in from my buddy, because I was like, I have to ask this, because I can't tell you how many times I've gone down there and we discussed the story that he loves, with all of his heart. That's that's on his Mount Rushmore of comic book stories. And I'm like, dude, I gotta read this. Like, that's insane. So I've actually collected two of the issues. I want to read it as single issues because they're '90s books. They're not that
Yeah.
expensive. But yeah, it was just an amazing experience, and I really look forward to seeing him again. And I'll ask him a Kingdom Come question next time, Steve. Sorry.
Yes, I want you to ask him. Revisiting Kingdom Come just recently here in the last couple months, dude. So,
Yes. Well, and that's
but
another
yeah,
thing I
that was a
appreciate
good
him
story.
is he's still writing. So he's
Yes.
producing new stuff, which opens up to more questions. But I love that he stays on the convention trail to touch base with us. But he told me, I can't tell you, like two or three times, he's like, people got to understand, I go out and thumb through long boxes just like you guys do. Like I read, I'm inspired by other creators. Like that's what keeps me going at this point in my career. He's like, that's what I draw from, is I draw inspiration from all these new creators that are continuing this work, and it just keeps me going. I was like, wow. The guy that writes Kingdom Come is like, yeah, my job's not done yet. Like, what a magnum
Right.
opus, right? Like that he could have put the pen down and been like, all right, see you guys later, I'm done. And he's like,
Right.
no, I have more to tell, and that's awesome.
Yes. Well, you definitely got to live a dream. He seemed like a really personable guy, and
Yes.
I'm happy that you got to do that for the channel for sure. So,
Yes. Thank
well,
you,
that's
Steve. Thank
well,
you.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, that is today's video. Again, I'm Steve. This is.
Mike B.
Let us know in the comment section what you guys think about the interview with Mark Waid. What is some of you guys' favorite works by him? All that and more. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. And as always, go Cats.
Cowabunga.
Scorpion time.
Today's video is brought to you by comicbook_pressing on Instagram. Protect your comic book investment for as little as $12 by using Eric from comicbook_pressing on Instagram. He can press any grade or tier of book, and make sure you use my promo code BURK54 to get free shipping back to you on your first order. Again, today's video is brought to you by comicbook_pressing on Instagram.